Well, Eric, it's great to have you back in Vancouver. Good to see you again.
Bonjour, Anthony.
Yeah, fun. I really wanted to talk about Boutinot today because it's a very busy company.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about the start of Boutinot? What was the formation of this company? And we'll talk a bit about how it's developed.
I met Paul Boutinot 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I was a young winemaker at the time. Paul wanted a young winemaker on the board. And that was a bit of a strange challenge for me because at the time Boutinot didn't own any vineyard, any vine stock, any tank, any barrel.
Yeah.
So why a young winemaker would join Boutinot? But I had a large tasting with Paul. Paul had plenty of projects, of ideas, and one of the first projects was, Eric, I want you to source our wines, I want you to make some projects, some wine projects, but more importantly, I'd like you to create the first winery for Boutinot so that we can demonstrate, we can make wine, we can source grapes.
Yeah.
That was the reason why I joined the company.
And he sort of had one idea that the wine always had to be delicious.
Yeah, exactly. Still the definition, Anthony. Paul, when he started in the 80s, his father had a restaurant in the UK.
Yeah.
Paul considered that the wines were not outstanding on the wine list, and he said, okay, Dad, let me find out the best wines for the wine list. This is the way he started.
Yeah.
Traveling in France, being francophone, he's been able very quickly to create a blend from the Loire Valley, that was vin de table from France.
Yeah.
A blend from the Rhône Valley, that was vin de table red. And that's the way it started. It's Cuvée Jean-Paul that he created as the first brand.
Yeah.
And the Cuvée Jean-Paul still
Very
exists.
famous.
Answering your question, Anthony, that's still the mantra of the company. When you give me the best grapes, the best equipments, and the best winery, obviously I should be able to make the best wine. But what about making a wine that is slightly cheaper and maintaining the quality and still enjoying the wine all year long? This is what we have to achieve.
The hardest thing to do.
That's the hardest thing. This is the hardest thing.
There was a story that he told you to get in the car and get driving or something.
Paul told me, Eric, you've got nothing to do in the office.
Yeah.
You take this car, you take this phone, and you take these crates to carry bottles. Please go in the vineyard, meet people, meet the vigneron, the viticulteur, and find little gems, find good grapes, discover nice wines. So I became, if I can say, a driving winemaker in France.
Yeah. As opposed to the famous flying French winemakers.
Later on, I took a bit of, I become more of a flying winemaker, yes, yes.
I mean, you have a great philosophy too, because what I love about you is that, you got in that car and you went driving, but for you it was about the place and the people.
Absolutely.
You want to make that connection. Why is that so important in winemaking, to make those connections?
First thing, I consider that you can only do a good job when you've got a good connection with people. And by a good connection, Anthony, I mean face to face, not in a screen. Being able to touch the guys with who I'm working.
Right.
So the connection, the relationship that we can create is the base. I don't want a big contract writing rules. That's not the point. I want a feeling, a connection with the project and with what we want to achieve with the different vignerons we are dealing with. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in France, but you were in a particular spot. Tell us a bit about Maison Boutinot and why you're situated where you were and how you got there.
So Maison Boutinot initially is the company that Paul created in order to source wine, make wine, and start to export wine to the UK market.
Yeah.
Through the journey, the job was to discover a property and settle the first property for the company. Mm-hmm. And this is where Cairanne, the village of Cairanne in the Rhône Valley, was on our list because Paul was already in love with this village. So through the years, we managed to find a little property. We bought it, and it became Domaine Boutinot.
We know a bit about now what Boutinot is doing in the Rhône, but let's talk a bit because, as you mentioned earlier, set up in Cairanne.
Yeah, but Rhône has been in our heart because since the beginning we thought it was underestimated region.
Yeah.
Of course, we know a lot about some of the biggest appellations, but there are still some little discovery and some villages where we could develop and we could push something.
Everybody knows Chateauneuf-du-Pape.
Oh yes.
But they don't know Cairanne.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was definitely more interesting and challenging and interesting to put our feet in Cairanne, which is a tiny village that potentially not so many people know. and try to grow the village and grow the appellation, grow the quality. So we've joined, we've made the first Cairanne in 99. The first cuvée for Boutinot was produced in 2003, but then we managed to set up our own winery in 2010, and this is when our story started to become a bit more serious, more solid. Obviously, we've been lucky because we've been part of an evolution in a village, meaning that the village that was Côte-d'Or village became Accrues in 2016.
Yeah, that's important. So it's on the same level now as Chateauneuf-du-Pape.
Exactly, I love the way you say it, exactly. We are exactly in the same position than these guys of Chateauneuf-du-Pape or Gigondas or Vaqueras. Cairanne is on the...
So we see some of these wines in Canada now. So how do let's talk about the Boutinot wines that come out of the region now. What are the steps that consumers can see there in terms of the labels and the wines that we have?
So we start in the range with a Côte-d'Or village, which is just above the straight Côte-d'Or. It's mainly Grenache and Syrah that are sourced from the key villages around the property.
Which are, how many would that be, roughly, villages?
For us, we play with 4 or 5 villages. Obviously, you've got a much larger choice. We pick our grapes in what we call the Croissant d'Or, the golden croissant.
The golden croissant.
Golden croissant around our property, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the beginning level, and then where do you go from there?
That's the beginning level for us. And then we go direct to our Cairanne, Cru Cairanne, where we pick the grapes from our property. We speak obviously about the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre being the most important grapes in the Rhône. But we are playing also with Cairanne. We are also playing with a bit of Cinsault, with a bit of Cunoise in our blends, which is very interesting, which increase the possibilities in order to blend.
Yeah. French winemakers love blending. We learned that so many years ago from Bordeaux. What is it about the blend that is so important? We grow up drinking varietal wine in North America, but blends are so much more interesting.
You just increase the dimension. When you taste just a Grenache, you get the fruit, you get a lot of unctuosity, but if suddenly you bring a bit of Syrah in it, you bring the spiciness, you bring some tannin. So you increase the complexity, you increase the flavors, and that's very interesting, seeing this evolution in the blend, but also seeing the evolution of the wine once it's blended through the years.
So you make now... So you make a Cairanne. You also make another wine under the Cairanne label.
We've always we've got 2 Cairanne today. One which is called La Côte Sauvage, which has been the first Cairanne we've been making now for nearly 20 years. Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, aged for 20 months in French oak. It's quite big, bold Cairanne. And we've got a second one that started in 2011, which is a Cairanne made of 6 different grapes. No oak aging, just fruit and concentration, trying to go back to a Cairanne that is probably more old-fashioned.
And if you were to describe in the end, we talked about the Boutinot wines, that mantra of them being delicious, but these are complex wines now that you're making. They're interesting wines.
Yeah, I love for a customer to have a glass of wine and see the evolution of the wine through, let's say, the 30-40 minutes they're going to enjoy the wine. I love them to have a first feeling, a second feeling, a third feeling. The wine is not static in your glass. It's going to deliver you different flavors, and it's a journey that you can have. When you pour Cairanne Lessis in a very big glass, what you have at the first minute is not exactly what you enjoy 30 minutes later, and that's really the message we try to deliver.
These are delicious wines. The texture of the wine is terrific. The tannins, it's not like the harder tannins from Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a much more mellow variety. What would you say was the difference if you were to say take Cairanne versus Chateauneuf-du-Pape? Maybe people know Chateauneuf-du-Pape. What would the difference be in a wine from Cairanne?
Wow, that's a cheeky question, Anthony.
Yeah.
Cairanne and Chateauneuf-du-Pape. There's no difference. We've got the same pebble stone at the top.
They don't
of the
sleep at night now that you're making wine in Cairanne, maybe.
No, you've got different terroir in Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and we've got also some different terroir in Cairanne. If you go to the top of the village or the mountain, you've got the same pebble stone. we have exactly the same sort of orientation and ripeness. So now it's just a question of history and way of making the wine. But I trust we can deliver exactly the same quality and the same evolution in the future.
People say you can't explain terroir. Is there a couple words that you could say about what the French interpret terroir to be?
Terroir is definitely starting with the land, with the soil, and the history that you have in the soil. The next step would be the climate. And obviously, the weather can be very specific in a village in comparison with another village. But I'll come back to what you said at the beginning, Anthony. Terroir is also linked to people. And when we said that I want to create a special connection with the vigneron with who we are working, it's also linked to the terroir. This wine exists because of the people making it, producing the grapes and making the wines.
Just before you go, you're making a wine in Canada on a very different terroir.
Oh, yes.
You're having fun in British Columbia.
Yeah, I discovered the Okanagan wine in 2017. Yeah. Was quite impressed. It was a proper discovery. So I came back in Canada in Okanagan Valley for a proper visit in 2018, and I met Michael Bartier. Yeah, we had a great tasting, great time together, and we've decided to have a common project, on Project B Wines. Exciting project for us. Yeah, I love it.
Sauvignon Blanc, which surprised me, and Rosé.
And the Rosé made from Gamay Noir, absolutely, yeah.
You have a good life.
A challenging one, but a good one.
Are you still driving the same car?
I just need a car with a big boot to transport a lot of bottles.
A lot of bottles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Anthony, merci.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.